What to do in a nuclear crisis, nuclear radiation emergency information. This is an audio recording of website content intended for the visually impaired. I will start off with the basics for about 10 minutes and then go over some of the more detailed points from the web page that we're reviewing. This recording does not supersede any current announcements by the government or media. For current instructions and announcements, please call 1-800-BE-READY, 1-800-237-3239, 1-800-CDC-INFO, or if you are near a nuclear power plant, call 1-800-DIAL-DOE. The author is not a physician, psychiatrist, or expert in defense or radiation. This is a compilation of private research, and sources will be cited throughout and at the end. I encourage you to do your own research and check all facts that you find online. We're going to go over the basics first. This is a quote from Flynn and Goins, 2006. The public response should be shelter and shower. Sheltering, particularly at home, is prudent early in a radiologic event because families congregate at home and showers, clean clothing, food, and water are available. Sheltering also provides authorities time to assess the situation more completely. Evacuation might be indicated later for people in some locations, depending on the specific situation and the extended dose estimates. In other locations, remaining sheltered may result in lower radiation exposure. And the title of this article is Nuclear Terrorism, Triage and Medical Management of Radiation and Combined Injury Casualties. So from here, we're going to do a couple more quotes. Exposed skin and hair should be cleansed with soap and water repeatedly. Udini, 2002. Removing clothing alone can decrease external radioactive contamination by 90%. Washing with soap and lukewarm or room temperature water is effective and removes another 90% of contamination. About 99% of the total is removed after both steps have been performed. Again, that's Flynn and Goins, 2006. The following information is a compilation of information from survival literature from a number of different sources, mainly peer-reviewed journal articles and government websites. If you are outside, cover your nose and mouth with a wet cloth and dust off any radioactive particles. Upon entering a shelter, clean and cover any wounds first to prevent cross-contamination. Shower and change into clean clothes in the foyer area if possible, or a shower if you need to walk through the house. Put the dirty clothes in a plastic bag. In general, shower and shelter until you hear otherwise. You should also wear a dust mask, cover your skin as well as possible with clean fabric, and consider protecting your eyes from particles in the air. From that point, you might consider collecting as much non-contaminated water as possible in clean containers. Choose the best room to shelter in, set up communication systems, arrange sanitary conditions, and organize your supplies and food. I would recommend that you print out select pages of survival guides, such as Nuclear War Survival Skills, in case you lose power or access to the internet at a later time. This page is intended to summarize key points at a glance. It is a condensed summary of the main points of survival literature. It includes fact-checking references. The author is not a medical doctor or psychiatrist. Please consult with your physician or expert before attempting any medical or psychiatric treatment plan or operating heavy or dangerous equipment. Further information and sources can be found at ibiblio.org/rcip/nuclear.html. What we're going to do at this point, I'm going to go over some information in the first 10 minutes of this as follows. First, we'll go over survival guides, then first aid, shelter, supplies, water and food, and coping skills. There's also information about communication and sanitation. So first of all, I would suggest that you download a survival manual. There are several that are free, available on the internet. Nuclear War Survival Skills is available on website format, or else you can download a 27 megabyte PDF. The best, I would start off with Chapter 5, Shelter, 8, Water, 9, Food, 13, First Aid. You can also see nuclear detonation preparedness, communicating the immediate aftermath. That is from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. FEMA Nuclear War Survival, 1985. Planning guidance for response to a nuclear detonation from FEMA, linked into FEMA's website. Or there's also a KI4U guide on nuclear accident preparation. I'm sure there are others. I would definitely download and print off whatever you can. So from here, we're going to go to first aid. I'll start off with burns. You want to, most research consistently advises to cover burns with a clean, sterile, non-adherent dressing, as in not adhering to the burn, to protect the burn from the air and germs. Recent research suggests applying topical antibiotics, but older research recommends dry dressings, and that was research from the 70s. This is probably to prevent the application of butter, oil, cucumber juice, or other salves or contaminants to burns. That increases the infection risk. Do not apply salves. The main goal is to prevent infection and protect the burn from the air, which actually makes it less painful if you protect it from the air. Infections are a major cause of mortality because of immunosuppressive effects. You do want to also pay attention to how you're positioning the victim in terms of airway, breathing, and circulation. Also keep in mind that anytime you're cooling a wound, you're also cooling the entire patient. You want to maintain the patient's temperature, elevate burned extremities, covering wounds improves the pain. Sterile dressings are preferred. If somebody's going to go to the hospital, make it a simple dressing so that they can see the wound. And again, clean, dry dressings, no wet dressings, and that is according to Advanced Burn Life Support, which is cited on the government website, REMM, and also from that same Flynn and Goins article also deals with that same information. So I have actually triple checked all of this information on burns in case you are concerned. You should consult your physician. Next from here, clean and cover wounds. Cover the wounds before you shower to prevent cross-contamination. The main medications are potassium iodide, DTPA, Prussian blue, and Neupogen. I'm sure there are others. You can also put a hand-sized patch of potassium iodide on the abdomen. 8 milliliters or 4 by 8 inch patch of 2% tincture topical iodine. This technique resulted in 82% reduction of the uptake by the thyroid gland. So basically you're filling your thyroid gland with non-radioactive iodine so that there's no room for the radioactive iodine to be absorbed. Do not ever ingest or swallow topical iodine solutions. You can see research by Ken Miller, the Hershey Medical Center. If you want more information about that, there was an article on Science News, and there's also an article on the Health Physics journal. So from here, there's also a number of homeopathic remedies. I will come back to that afterwards. I want to touch on the basics in the first maybe 15 minutes of this recording. In fact, I think what I will do is do recording part 1 and recording part 2 because it has timed me out in the past. So the next thing we're going to go over is shelter. The best place in the building is in a centrally located room in the middle or basement with few windows. Sometimes after the initial event, you may want to avoid places where fallout has settled, like the roof or the basement. So after a while has passed, do not go outside unless a trusted media source tells you to. Make sure that whatever media source you're listening to is the one you think you're listening to. So double check if somebody tells you go outside. Check on that. Evacuation might be recommended later. You can find evacuation information from media sources. Best types of buildings are houses with basements, multi-story structures, closed parking garages, and tunnels. And if you do need to evacuate, turn everything off and lock it up, including the furnace, and assist the elderly and disabled. If you are near the blast when it occurs, turn away, cover your eyes, drop to the ground face down, and place your hands under your body. Remain flat until 2 shock waves pass. If you are outside, find something to cover your mouth. Remove any dust from your clothes while covering your mouth and nose, and then shower and shelter. From here, we'll go over the basics of supplies, so radiation and water. Don't drink from open water sources, obviously. Water coming from pipes underground, according to some researchers, during the first few hours may be safe if the pipes have not been contaminated. So, according to the FEMA website, some of the safe sources of water during a radiation emergency are going to be melted ice cubes, water from a water heater. Be very careful with that. You could burn yourself if you don't consult with instructions or an expert if the water heater has not been damaged. Liquids from canned goods, water drained from pipes. Unsafe sources would be radiators, hot water boilers, water beds, water from the toilet tank or flush tank, swimming pools and spas because of the chemicals. So those last ones were unsafe, and the safe ones were ice cubes, water heaters, canned goods, and pipes. There's some disagreement over toilet tank water. Most government websites do not approve of it as a safe water source, and most survival websites encourage people to use it. So you would have to use your best judgment in that respect. Of course, you would want to sanitize or purify any water that you do collect, boil for 3 to 5 minutes, or distill the water, meaning collect the condensation and transform it back into water. And you can also add 4 drops of household bleach, 5.25 sodium hypochlorite per quart. Do not use bleaches that are scented or color safe. 2 types of filtering that you can research on NWSS are filtering through clay and also settling, which also involves clay particles. Very quickly, for filtering, you would basically make a terrarium structure from the top layer downwards: water, porous fabric, 6 to 7 inches of clay soil, layer fabric, 1.5 inches of pebbles, and then prop the container up with sticks and then catch the filtered water underneath. And those are, of course, non-guaranteed improvised methods that you can try at home, but they're not guaranteed to remove radiation from water. In terms of food, do not eat anything that has been exposed to radioactive fallout. Make sure it's sealed and covered. If you have cans, keep them covered so that fallout does not touch the metal and make the metal radioactive. Avoid foods with high salt content, dairy products, bones, and seafood. Best choices might be soups, vegetables, and fruits. If in terms of out of doors foods, underground tubers, underground vegetables are safest. In animals who have been exposed, avoid the thyroid gland, liver, and kidneys. That is, you can find more information on that from the SAS Survival Handbook by John Wiseman. So next we're going to move on to counseling and coping skills. It's very important that you understand what PTSD is. PTSD can be either temporary or can be lifelong, which would really impede with your functioning. So it is important to try to reduce the risk of PTSD, and the following are some resilience factors that can reduce your risk. Seeking out support from other people, such as friends and family, finding a support group after a traumatic event, feeling good about one's own actions in the face of danger, having a coping strategy to get through the event, and being able to act and respond effectively despite feeling fear. And it's going to be different for everybody, so you really do have to look up coping skills and find the way that is going to work best for you. 6 steps to self-control when dealing with panic attacks. According to the Midwest Center for Stress and Anxiety, recognize that you are feeling anxious and accept that that's okay and that's normal to be anxious in your situation. Give yourself permission to feel that way. You can do breathing exercises. Inhale through your nose for 2 seconds and out through your mouth for 4 seconds, repeating at least 60 seconds. Using positive dialogue, saying, it's just anxiety, it will go away. It's important to also know that anxiety is not going to hurt you. Get busy. Do something to release self-induced stimulation. So walk, clean, organize. That's why I've linked into some of those medical documents, like fill out medical history forms, HIPAA release forms, things you might think that you need in the future, and so forth. Also try to see a little humor in the way you feel, even though this might be a very dire situation right now. Give yourself permission to feel weird for a little while. There are some sample coping skills, one of which is safe place, where you picture an imaginary place in your mind where you are completely safe. This is your space, nobody else allowed in unless you decide that they can come in. It is completely under your control. You should imagine the plants, the way it smells, tastes, things that you can touch. So basically a lot of people will picture a green field that's bordered by trees and only they can come into it and decide what happens there. So that's a good way if you are in an unsafe situation. That's a good way to remove yourself temporarily if you just need a break of a few seconds, and then you can come back to yourself. Also challenge negative thoughts. Just think to yourself, is this productive or not? Is it getting you closer to your goal? If it's just negative, then you need to be able to say stop and redirect yourself and think about something else. You can also visualize a container, putting memories or whatever thought is causing you distress into the box so that you can deal with it later. One positive coping skill is learning about PTSD from the National Institute of Mental Health. 3 of the criteria would be re-experiencing symptoms like flashbacks, bad dreams, frightening thoughts. The second would be avoidance symptoms, staying away from places, emotional numb, feeling strong guilt, losing interest in activities, having difficulty remembering the event. And the third criteria would be hyperarousal symptoms, being easily startled, feeling tense or on edge, or having difficulty sleeping, or having angry outbursts. So it is a good idea to do research on that, because the more you feel like you're in control of what's happening to you, the better you're going to handle it overall. Once you are out of the immediate situation, there are a number of medications and treatments for PTSD, including antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and mood stabilizing medications. A lot of people go through cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive processing therapy, and including prolonged exposure therapy. So you can also do journaling to cope with PTSD. Positive coping skills are learning about PTSD, talking, relaxing, journaling. Negative coping skills are alcohol, drug use, violence, anger, unhealthy eating. So you should look up coping skills because it's going to be different for everyone. Some people cannot stand or tolerate certain coping skills, and they can handle other ones much better. So you're going to have to do a little hunting around. And that is, of course, just a Band-Aid. You will want to seek therapy at a later time. In terms of sanitation, really quickly, it's very important to prevent intestinal illnesses and so forth, that you just keep clean, wash your hands, make sure what you're eating off is clean, keep the area free of insects, eat from paper plates or original containers, wash and peel all fruits and vegetables, keep everything covered, only prepare what can be eaten at one time. You're going to want to make a makeshift toilet. You're going to place a garbage bag inside the toilet bowl, or else use a bucket with 2 boards. After each use, you can pour bleach to avoid infection into the container. You want to cover it when not in use. It's going to start to smell pretty quickly. Dispose of the waste in a pit away from any water supply, or wrap it in newspapers and store in a large can with tight-fitting lids and place that outside. Disinfectants can include 1 part chlorine bleach to 10 parts water. And that's kind of common sense in terms of sanitation. So just to recap, you want to shower and shelter until you're told otherwise. Keep an eye on whether you are near a nuclear power plant or not when making that call if you don't have access to the media. Make sure you check the radio. Television, radio is the best way to get information. There are going to be some issues that might interrupt communication for people at various times. Electromagnetic pulses may damage equipment and so forth, so you want to do the best that you can with that. A lot of people will use Skype and whistlephone.com to communicate with each other if you are able to access wireless. There are also highway advisory radio stations, and you can check on various websites. There are several directories that list them to find out which radio station is your local emergency radio station. And so from here, what I'm going to do is go over my sources. I have a variety of emergency forums, LinkedIn, information for professionals in the field, information for medical professionals, and also research on nuclear radiation and effects. You can Google frequently asked questions about a nuclear blast from the CDC, how to limit contamination from the CDC, and those were the two best websites that I found. FEMA has a lot of information as well. And also DHS.gov, they have a library of information on nuclear facts, and as well as Ready.gov, a nuclear blast page. So you can get all of the sources that I've cited, that I have used for this information, from ibiblio.org/rcip/nuclear at the bottom, because I won't have time to read out all of them. The ones that I used for my primary research when I was putting this together was Nuclear Terrorism, Triage and Medical Management of Radiation and Combined Injury Casualties from Surgical Clinics of America. The author's last name is Flynn. I also used Radiologic Emergency, Protecting Schoolchildren and the Public from the American Journal of Nursing, Gustafson and Dixon. Likewise, I used Medical Treatment of Radiological Casualties, Current Concepts from the Annals of Emergency Medicine, Gonig and Hatchett, Mettler, Schumacher, Noji, and Jarrett, and Goins. And likewise, Ken Miller, Effectiveness in Skin Absorption of Tincture of Eye in Blocking Radioiodine from the Human Thyroid Gland, Health Physics. And I actually exchanged an email with him at one point, a couple years ago. And Udini, the article title is Management of Nuclear Casualties. The journal is Topics in Emergency Medicine. Also, the SAS Survival Handbook by John Wiseman, available for purchase on Amazon. Do not know if he has a digital version of that or not. Online resources would be the American Red Cross, CDC, FEMA, NWSS, FEMA Nuclear War Survival, Planning Guidance for Response to Nuclear Detonation, Medline, Ready.gov, and there were a number of other journal articles, but those are the ones that I used for the bulk of the information that I have included in this website. The rest of this recording is actually going to be a necessary legal disclaimer. It is viewable on the website. I will reiterate that the author is not a medical or psychiatric professional or an expert in the field of radiation or emergency. This is private research, but it does come primarily from peer-reviewed journal articles and government websites. I would encourage you to cross-reference anything you're finding on a nonprofit emergency website, like a survival website. Cross-link that with government websites. Just Google that subject and .gov and see if that same information is listed somewhere where you know that somebody has reviewed it before it was published online. So hopefully this information was helpful to you. If you do need further information, you can call the 1-800-BE-READY hotline. I believe that will be a pre-recorded website. So from here out, it's just going to be a disclaimer. The materials and other information provided by this recording and website are for educational, communication, and information purposes only, and are not intended to replace or constitute medical advice or treatments. The author intends that the information contained in these pages be accurate. Errors sometimes occur. Therefore, the author disclaims any warranty of any kind, whether express or implied, as to any matter whatsoever relating to the service or information, including without limitation merchantability or fitness for any particular purpose. In no event shall the author be liable for any indirect, special, incidental, or consequential damages arising out of any use of or reliance on any content or materials contained herein. The author does not assume and hereby disclaims any and all liability to any person or entity for any claims, damages, liability, or other loss, including, without limitation, any liability for injury or other damage resulting from any use of or reliance on this service, or from the posting of any content or material by any third party. No use of or reliance on any materials included in this document or recording or website shall be deemed to give rise to a physician-patient relationship. No material included in this site shall be deemed to present the only or necessarily the best method or procedure with respect to a matter discussed on this service. Rather, any such material shall be acknowledged as only the approach or opinion of the discussant. The users assume all risks of using the materials included in this document or website. This website and audio recording provides information and links to other internet websites only for the convenience of users. The author and host of the website is not responsible for the availability or content of these external sites, nor does iBiblio or RCIP endorse, warrant, or guarantee the products, services, or information described or offered at these other internet sites. It is the responsibility of the user to examine the copyright and licensing restrictions of linked pages and to secure all necessary permission. The information provides general summary information for the public, does not supersede, preempt, or replace statutes, regulations, or other aspects of the federal law, or current announcements by the media or government. If copyrighted content, documents, images, or other materials appear, it will be noted and the copyright holder should be consulted before that material is reproduced. Further information, disclaimers, citations of resources, and so forth can be found at iBiblio.org/RCIP/nuclear.html. This is a nonprofit website. Nobody who is hosted on this particular iBiblio website is allowed to make money from their website, so nobody is profiting from anybody going to this URL. So again, I want to reiterate, I'm going to actually just read out hotlines for information. 1-800-CDC-INFO, 1-800-BE-READY. TTY is 1-202-447-3543. You can contact FEMA at 1-800-621-FEMA. You can contact the U.S. Department of Energy at 1-800-DIAL-DOE. Thank you very much and have a good day.